In the last class we have discussed about the English fiction, and unfortunately the video of the live class was very disturbed. So I have decided to revisit the video and also to add a few new things also, and hopefully it will help you everyone. So before going to detail, let us start by saying that when English novels started, before that there were some other prose works which were known as romances, and there were other narrative poems and epic poems which almost did the same job, but it was not something which was written exclusively as prose. The narrative poetry and epic poetry were poems which told a story, and the epic poems and narrative poems are very long in nature. But when novel came, there were certain numbers of chapters, and it was not so long as an epic. Also, the characters and the basis of the characters were all very real. In epic and narrative poem, most of the stories are based on fiction, and it is also something which did not, which had a most of the time which had a very supernatural element. There was not very, they were not very much based on reality. But when fiction came, it was based on reality, and the narrative poems and epic poems were very long in nature. But novels were some of the novels especially were not were nowhere near those epic poems in length. And if we study Robinson Crusoe, Daniel Defoe even before that wrote very many prose pieces, but those were not very, those cannot be said as novels. And he even before that he wrote biographies, he wrote periodicals, he wrote many other things. He wrote one of his famous thing was I think the Journal of the Plague Years, something like that. It was kind of an autobiographical novel, one can say, not really novel, but it was autobiographical history kind of a thing. He told the story of plague years in his own way, and everything saved to Robinson Crusoe. When he wrote Robinson Crusoe, it was not something which was born out all of a sudden. There were many other things which influenced him to write the prose piece which is known as Robinson Crusoe. And Robinson Crusoe was written in 1719. Now the problem is that Robinson Crusoe, though it is some people regard it as the first novel, but the modern critics or critics in general agree that Robinson Crusoe was not the first novel in a true sense. Okay, so it was kind of a autobiographical it was kind of a biographical element of a person, and there were no other memorable character, only Friday, who appears towards very end of the novel. But here his character development never really happened. Only there was one character which was Robinson Crusoe. So if someone asks which was the first novel written in English literature, we cannot write Robinson Crusoe. It will be a wrong answer. But it paved the way for other people to write novels, and it was kind of a inspirational for other writers. So if someone asks which is the first novel, we have to say that it was Samuel Richardson, Pamela. So Pamela is the first English novel, and Samuel Richardson wrote Pamela, and the main thing about this novel was it was written in a epistolary manner. Samuel Richardson was actually a letter writer by profession. Means in those times, not everyone in England were literate. So this person used to take people like there was a job like letter writers who used to write letters on the behalf of the person, and after that writing the letter, he used to post it, and for that he used to get money. And those letter writers were very much in demand in those days, and Richardson was a very able writer. Suppose a woman came or a lady came, and she used to tell her tale that this thing happened, now write it to my lover or write it to my friend. So he used to describe it in his own way and wrote those letters to the friend or to the lover that the woman was writing, and in this manner he earned a living. Also he was able to know the psychology of women, because most of the letters that were written were mostly by women, and in his novels we can find a deep understanding of the female psychology. And in Pamela we can find that the women character are very lively, but the male character are somewhat not up to that mark, because he was very much capable as a writer to understand only women, because he wrote most of the letters for his women, and so the novels were not very successful in his so he was very successful, and his novel catered to the middle class, which was aimed actually, and it was written in a weekly manner, and from 1940 to 1941 it was published. Pamela was published, and then he wrote another novel which was Clarissa. It was also very successful. He wrote it in 1947-48. It was a sentimental novel, and it was huge hit at that time. All the Richardson heroine, it is believed that Clarissa is the most human of all of them, and it was very successful in those times. And again, it was also in an epistolary form. Epistolary form is, if you understand, it is the story is told in a way of letter writing. Means the story is not told by the writer. It is told in a way that Pamela wrote this to his friend, Pamela wrote this to her lover. So the story is told like that. This thing happened to me, and then a reply also came, which also get the story going. So this is how the story kept on moving from one page to another. In Clarissa also same thing happened. The story was spoken, or the story was told in a epistolary or in a way which was for letter writing. So these are the two other novels written by Samuel Richardson, Charles Grandison and Clarissa. And Clarissa was a huge hit, but Charles Grandison was not very much hit, because Samuel Richardson lacked the moral understanding of a male character, and most his character, which his woman character, were much better emotionally attached, or emotionally he knew the woman psychology much better than the men, and his man character were not very much up to the mark. Richardson was a moralist actually, though his intention in Pamela was encourage people to write, but he in the novel teach those person or teach those people how to live in a society and what is the moral thing to do, how should we live. And all through his story, we can find that he was always trying to give a moral high ground, how should people live. If anyone asks which is the first English novel, we have to say Pamela, and for that matter we have to say that Samuel Richardson was the first English novelist. And though Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe is also believed by some people, but generally it is widely accepted because Pamela has many characters, and in a novel one need characters to develop from one point to another. And in Robinson Crusoe we don't find that. There is only one character, one special character, and there are only another character of which we can mention, that is Friday, but his contribution to the story or his development to the story is not very much known. Then Pamela on the other hand has several characters which have developed. Even the story of even the main character Pamela develops herself throughout the story, and there is a definite story to the novel. So we can safely say that Pamela is the first novel and Samuel Richardson was the first English novelist. Another important novelist or the next person who came after Samuel Richardson is Henry Fielding. Henry Fielding and Samuel Richardson both wrote in epistolary manner, but their style was different. Henry Fielding was the best writer of that generation, of the first generation, and his artistic quality was almost with the same capabilities with Charles Dickens and many other writer who came much before him, much after him. But Henry Fielding was right at the top, and his artistic quality was much more higher than Samuel Richardson. Unlike Richardson, unlike Samuel Richardson, Henry Fielding was a very learned person. Samuel Richardson, as you all know, could not study for much because his father was a joiner on a railway factory, I think, but and he had to earn from very early age. Also, he was not very much interested in studies, but he was interested in writing letters only. So in that manner we can say that Henry Fielding was a person who was very much learned. He read in the Eton College from University of Leiden in 1728. So his first novel was Joseph Andrew. So Fielding on the other hand wrote Joseph Andrews, which was inspired by Pamela, and it is also written that he is Pamela's cousin brother. And unlike Pamela, who is punished for her deeds, Joseph Andrews does his thing. He goes on doing various things, various acrimonious things, and not because Fielding writes on the story, not because he wanted to show remorse or repentance of the character, or he want to preach morality, but because it just interested him, and he pictured Joseph Andrews as people were seeing people like Joseph Andrews used to do, means that they never sense, they remain the sense until they never sense, they remain the same until they are dead. And Henry Fielding only told or only described what was the reality of the society at that time. Jonathan Wild and The Adventures of Tom Jones. The Adventure of Tom Jones. So these are the novels which were written by Henry Fielding. Also, his best story was Emilia, and it told a story about a wife uh, who got an unworthy husband and who used to make her life a living hell. So these are the things which inspired Fielding. Also, one other aspect or one other difference with Richardson was not very much humorous in his story, and he did not he minced word, means he never told or never write which could upset the society. But Henry Fielding, on the other hand, never really minced word. He was humorous, so the story was much more enjoyable to read, and people used to enjoy his novel. He died in Portugal, Lisbon, and it was not known whether he has gone there for some health reason or any other thing, but he died there after 1955, and his writing will always remain. So Henry Fielding and Samuel Richardson are the forefathers of English novel writing. They started this trend, and afterward it was followed by many other writers, which enriched the English novel tradition. The first novels were mostly epistolary. Joseph Andrews was a burlesque story. So in next class we will discuss the next part,